All right, always nice to have with us Jake Madison from the Locked On Pelicans podcast that you can hear Monday through Friday every week for the Pelicans fans out there. What has this team figured out in this four-game win streak that took them forever to get the four-game win streak?
They figured out how to get some offense with Brandon Ingram and without Zion Williamson. You're seeing them use B.I. in a variety of different ways. Rather than having him at the top of the three-point line just kind of dribbling the ball and eventually trying to attack but jumping into a contested mid-range jumper, you're seeing them get him the ball around the free throw line on the low block, drawing two defenders and creating open looks for others, and he's getting them the ball in rhythm. He's had 23 assists over the past two games, including that big win against Charlotte where he had the triple-double. They're just putting him in advantageous spots, letting him get to his spots, and it's just making the offense work for everybody else.
He also looks like a guy that's only played 30 games, give or take whatever. He even said that after the game, it feels like he's been playing fewer games. His legs are strong. What's impressed you the most about how they began the road trip with a huge win and a convincing win against the Clippers last night?
You know, they managed to keep the consistency from the past couple of games. You know, it's one thing to beat the Spurs, the Rockets, the Hornets, teams that are tanking, that aren't going to be in the postseason. To do it against a Clippers team that still has Kawhi Leonard, that had been playing good basketball, and to do it on the road, I think shows you that what they're doing with Brandon Ingram, what they're doing with the offense right now, is sustainable towards the end of the season. And for this team to come out with the kind of level of intensity that they did, the energy that they did, we've seen them come out and just not really be up for a game. And they knew the stakes, they knew the sense, they had the right sense of urgency, I think. And that was really important for them to know exactly where they stand at this point in the season.
So they win the game last night against the Clippers. They've still got Portland, Golden State, back-to-back games, and of course Denver, a difficult opponent on the road on Thursday. But this feels like going into this four-game trip, this felt like the season. Either you do well 500 or better, and your season still goes on, chance of making the playoffs is still there.
Yeah, I think so. Look, these are the toughest games they're really going to face for the remainder of the year, at least on the road. You've got to beat Portland, who at this point is shutting Damian Lillard down for the year. That should be a winnable game. Golden State hasn't been themselves these past, as they have been the past couple of years. They're good at home, terrible on the road, a little bit hit or miss. That's a game that you can get. They're basically in the play-in tournament already. This is a team that is fighting for the postseason, whether that's to be in the play-in tournament, but they could also get to the 5 seed at this point and avoid all of this and solidly get into the playoffs, or it could go south and they could be on their way out.
It's that close.
Every win matters at this point with how close things are in the Western Conference.
Of course, there was the hope that Zion Williamson will make it back in time for the playoffs beginning. When he comes out of the whole 2-week wait, the protocol, whatever you want to call it, rev up, ramp up, whatever, they may still have 3 games to go in the regular season and still a lot to play for. But I would imagine in your thoughts, this team has to accept that they may have to go forward again into the playoffs without Zion.
This is what they did last year. When you looked at this team last year without Zion for the whole season, they struggled in the beginning part of the year because they almost were waiting for him to come back. It was Zion will come back.
Such a distraction.
And the season will be rescued, and then we'll move on from there. And once they kind of understood that he wasn't coming back and started playing a different style of basketball, they went on the run that we saw, a very similar run to right now behind Brandon Ingram and C.J. McCollum, got into the play-in tournament, won the play-in tournament, and went into the postseason. They need to do the exact same thing. You can't approach this as if Zion is coming with reinforcements or anything like that. You don't know when he's going to play. He'll be on a minutes restriction, I would imagine, when he comes back. You've got to take care of business with the roster you have and keep doing what they've been doing on this 4-game winning streak.
And you have to remember, Jake, that CJ and Brandon are all-star caliber players who are playing their basketball at the right time. What's been different about Brandon Ingram since he's been back? And he hasn't played a lot of games, but he's got his legs up under him. We've seen a different Brandon Ingram at this point in time of the season right now.
He's not settling. I think that's the biggest thing. This is a guy who's a bit of a mid-range assassin. He can hit those 16-footers. He can hit that 20-foot jump shot. It's not the most efficient shot and the shot that you always want guys taking. So if you can get Brandon Ingram that attacks the basket, that wants to get downhill, put the defense on the back foot, it creates for others too. So he's taking more efficient shots, and he's creating for others. There's a reason Trey Murphy had 10 made threes the other night.
Didn't just happen.
Didn't just happen, and 9 of those were without a single dribble. They were catch-and-shoot varieties off passes from Brandon Ingram and others. So this kind of decisiveness, this playing downhill and a little bit more inside-out than what they had been doing before, has really led his game to kind of evolving in a sense.
And the inside-out is also with Jonas Valanciunas picking up a ton of points and a ton of rebounds. Almost a 20-20 night last night. Why did it take them so long to realize this is the best way to find success in this season, by going to your big man, letting him take on double teams and toss the ball out?
I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay, moving on to the next question.
But
I don't either.
The biggest thing was he hasn't been great defensively this year. They like to go with Larry Nance Jr. to close games. They like the switchability where Larry Nance Jr. can defend on the perimeter more so than Jonas Valanciunas can. And I think that led to Willie Green not trusting Valanciunas in some key situations. But if you look at that Clippers game the other night, he was grabbing defensive rebound after defensive rebound, and that is a form of defense, ending that opponent's possession. So the fact that they've used him more, and you see him draw double teams, it opens things up. The Pelicans have had trouble with spacing. Normally you think of spacing from the three-point line, but it can still be a big man down low that draws double teams.
And another thing, Willie Green has done a good job of adjusting, and we've complained a little bit this year about he's taking too long to make adjustments, 10-game losing streak. He's taken the ball out of C.J. McCollum's hands, let him be that natural two-guard that he was in Portland, and he's benefited.
Yeah, and this is a big credit to C.J. McCollum, too. When he came here to New Orleans, he kind of wanted to be the point guard. He wanted to run the team and show a different side of his game that we hadn't seen from him before, and it's worked at times, but you've seen him get into trouble a lot this season. Driving down into traffic, turning the ball over, which kills the Pelicans' defense, giving the opponent easy fast break opportunities. By using him off ball, it just lets him be a scorer, a shooter, and he only has he had 3 turnovers in the game against the Clippers. I think he had 1 the other night against the Charlotte Hornets. You want that number lower? That's going to help the Pelicans score. That's going to give their defense a way to get back and get set. And that's how they're winning these games right now.
One final thing on Willie Green, because he was fantastic last year, got him into the play-in tournament, got him into a first-round playoff series against against Phoenix. Could have won that series. He's remembered for the speech in the huddle. But this year he's lacked a little bit. He's shown that he's a young basketball coach. He's going to make his mistakes. What do you need to see from him down the stretch?
You want to see the sense of urgency that he's got this team ready to come out and play. And there's been times when he said there's no sense of urgency. Then he's kind of changed his mind on that and says, like, we look at the standings. We know where we are. It's kind of about understanding the moment, I think, that you could be in the postseason or you could be out, and you've got to make every game count. So come out, get that team ready, and have the same energy you used to beat the Clippers.
I love that he showed last week that, we do watch the standings, because we know they do. We all look at the standings every day.
Absolutely. You got to know where you stand, and you got to know the stakes.
8 games left to go. That's Jake Madison from the Locked On Pelicans podcast. Again, Monday through Friday, wherever you download your podcast. Jake, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me on.